Good morning, everyone. On this Thursday of the 22nd week in Ordinary Time, we are continuing our reading in the book of Colossians, and we're in chapter 1 of verses 9 through 14. Brothers and sisters, from the day we heard about you, we do not cease praying for you and asking that you may be filled with the knowledge of God's will, through all wisdom and understanding, to walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, so as to be fully pleasing, in every good work, bearing fruit and growing in the power of God, strengthened with every power in accord with his glorious might, for all endurance and patience, with joy giving thanks to the Father, who has made you fit to share in the inheritance of the holy ones in light. He delivered us from the power of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. If you read Apostle Paul's writings, you know his sentences is phrase after phrase after phrase. It's just like packed. There is so much in each phrase that he's trying to convey. Sometimes for some of us, it's just a little bit overwhelming. So you have to kind of break it apart a little bit and take it slower in order to get what he's trying to convey, because it's packed. It's basically two sentences and it's filled with all kinds of stuff. So we were introduced that Apostle Paul was praying for the church at Colossae, but now we're saying how he was praying. So he's describing this. And he begins by saying he's praying that the folks there would be filled with the knowledge of God's will. Be filled with the knowledge of God's will. In other words, there needs to be an understanding, which he puts in here, wisdom and understanding, about who God is, what he requires, what it's all about, the big picture of what it is. And not something that you would have at like a one shot. Oh, I got it, and that's it. No, it is something that is a lifelong. He says to be filled. Well, God is infinite, so we got a lot of territory, which is why we're constantly, to be engaged in this, engaging to learn, ask those hard questions, and to be engaged in it. But it's not just to be a dead end, just to have a bunch of this knowledge up in our heads, and that's it. No. The next part is to walk in a manner worthy of the Lord. To walk in a manner worthy of the Lord. There is, in other words, action that is to be taken on our parts. As we learn these things, it's going to have an impact on the way we live our lives and how we conduct it, and that's the walking part. And the third part is just like growing any type of plant that's supposed to bear fruit. We give it the right ingredients, we give it the stuff that needs, proper sunshine and all that type of stuff, but it's meant to bear fruit. And he said, third, every good work bearing fruit and growing in the knowledge of God. Bearing fruit. We're meant to be fruitful in our lives. Engage with people, to be extending to the life of God. If we're receiving from God, it's not to just dead end there, it's to also flow out to others. And that flowing out is bearing fruit, allowing their lives to also be touched by that. Then he goes on to say, giving thanks to the Father. Giving thanks to the Father. The Father is the one who is, as it were, the master architect of this salvation. The Son and the Holy Spirit have their part in this great work of salvation, but it's the Father who is kind of the big one. Yes, they're three in one, they're doing it, but in terms of their role, interaction with creation, it's the Father who is the one. And so Apostle Paul gives thanks to the Father. And what does the Father do? It is he who made you fit to share in the inheritance of the holy ones in light. It's the Father who does this. Jesus said this numerous times. No one can come to the Father except the Father draws him. So the role of the Father in our salvation is incredibly important for everything. Second of all, he says, the Father delivered us from the power of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son. Now, there's an interesting word here. He transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son. Back in those days, it was not uncommon when a conqueror would come through, a new king would come through. Folks that were in a certain land would have to transfer, go to another place, a new land. When the Assyrians came through, they captured Israel, the 10 tribes of the north, and they were transferred away. Well, when God does this, the Father does this, he transfers us from the domain of the devil, and he transfers us into a new territory, the territory of his beloved Son. It's worth rejoicing. We're given a new place in the kingdom, in whom we have redemption and forgiveness of sins. So in other words, the role of his beloved Son is the person that gives us this redemption and the forgiveness. He paves the way to receive this new transfer to a new kingdom. There's a lot in this passage, just a couple sentences. Stay safe, folks. Hopefully we see each other soon. Bye for now.